So, here I am walking around Ibiza port, cruise port. I think it's okay to film around here. I'm walking out anyway, so I think we're fine. We're far enough away from the building, cruise terminal. And I wanted to talk a little bit about gear, what equipment to bring on a cruise ship contract like this. And obviously that will differ depending on your position, but it's generally the same. There's just some miscellaneous things that can be switched out. So equipment, I wanted to talk about the equipment, and first thing is obviously depending on your position. Now I am on as the guitar vocalist, and it has various names on different ships, but basically it is a guitar vocalist position where I am a solo act, so I am responsible for being my own band leader. That is the sort of technical term, even though it's not a band. It's not a band, obviously, but I am my band leader. That means I have to be responsible for all the songs that I select, and obviously learning them and rehearsing them, being prepared to play them, and any equipment that I need to present the songs. So obviously I need my guitar. That's a no-brainer. But first thing is, make sure on a new contract you can put some new strings on your guitar, right? You get your guitar set up properly so it's nice and ready to play. I know this might sound obvious to some of you, but maybe not. Have it set up. If you've got a guitar tech that you work with and trust with your instrument, give it to them for a week or whatever, however long they need, and have them just go over the instrument. Make sure they just check out, especially if it's not a new guitar, if you've had it for a while or it's been used a lot, just have them check out the action, the frets obviously, and just any little issues. It's going to be an acoustic guitar most likely if you're doing this position, so have them check for any swelling in the wood or any moisture issues, or any little fine line cracks they might be able to find. Sometimes you get that with guitars. If it's been knocked over or something, there might be a little crack in the headstock somewhere. Some little nasty things like that lurking around that can cause havoc obviously with your contract. You don't want your guitar snapping in half, the neck breaking off or something. But it's unlikely, but it does happen actually. So just have them look over the guitar, make sure it's match fit, gig ready. Make sure it's all oiled up, the machine heads and the the saddle's nice, and you've got some fresh strings on there, so that also you can play it nicely and the action is how you like it. Now I'm kind of labouring that point because it's very different on a ship playing a guitar night after night. In my case, on this contract, 6 nights a week. Well, it could be more, but it's usually 6 nights a week. That is very, very different on your hands and on your fingers than playing 1 or 2 or 3 gigs a week even on land, where you get a couple of days either side to recover and for your hands to recuperate. It's actually quite noisy around here, isn't it? Oh well. So it really compounds after a while. If you've not done a ship contract before and you kind of jump in head first into one that's several months long, which is quite normal, 3 or 4 months, and you're not used to playing that long, you might find that your guitar is a lot more aggressive on your fingers than you realised. And I actually had that experience. My first ship contract was 1 month, and I was playing a Taylor Grand Auditorium body, I think it was. Just a normal size Taylor, which was good for a bit of strumming and a bit of picking. So I thought that would be the perfect acoustic to bring. I think it had gauge 12 strings on it, maybe. I can't remember, but just the normal strings that it's meant to have. And it was set up nicely, but wow. Playing it as hard as I was playing it on land in gigs, and then playing it the same amount every night. And actually that contract I had no days off, so I played it like 30 nights in a row. My hands were in agony by the end of it, actually, and my fingers were all broken up. They'd bled various times through the contract. They'd got really rough calluses and just all broken up and nasty, to be honest. So, and it wasn't nice. So every time I'd go to play the next day, it was sore. My hands, my fingertips were really sore. It was really tender, and I was like trying not to play certain chords because it was like, ouch, it just hurts so much, my fingers just need to rest, all that. So actually what I did, and this is turning into a story about my guitar now, but what I did was, after that contract, I went and bought a GS Mini Taylor, and this is not an endorsement, I'm not affiliated at all, but I bought the Taylor GS Mini, which is like a small travel size one, and had it set up with a bit below average height action. Nothing crazy low, but a little bit lower than average, I would say. And just with it being so much smaller, it was so much easier to play. It just doesn't require as much tension on the fingers. And it's a bit of a workaround, but I think it's acceptable considering it's quite unusual to play that much guitar night after night, 3 or 4 sets, 6 nights a week. It's quite unusual for a professional guitarist, I think. You let me know what you think in the comments of that statement. So it's a great workaround, and I just don't play it as hard either. I just play it quite softly, and it totally works. It sounds great. So that's a great workaround. So the other thing, of course, with a travel guitar, and when I say travel, it's probably like 3/4 size. I wouldn't go any smaller than that unless you are a small person that requires a smaller guitar. I wouldn't recommend going any smaller than like 3/4 size, but certainly a travel 3/4 size is fine. The other thing is that it's lighter as well. So again, it's much easier on your back when you're playing night after night, especially if you're standing up. It's easier to get your arm over it, the thickness of the body and everything. It's a much more, in my opinion, a much more enjoyable experience playing a travel guitar actually than a full-size one. And it's lighter to carry around the ship. As well as all the playing, you're doing a lot of walking around the ship, often carrying your guitar, in its case. And if you can make that a little bit easier, have a smaller, lighter guitar, great. Just makes the whole experience that much easier. So you want that, you want plenty of picks, obviously, and multiple capos. I usually bring a couple, 2 or 3 of a certain brand that I like. I think it's called like Pro Bar, which is a bit of a random one, but I really like this one that I'm using at the moment. So I packed several of those, and I'll normally pack maybe some different tension ones, just in case I need them. If I want to retune my guitar or something, or it's nice to have a tension adjustable one. But what I do is bring maybe a Kaiser capo or a branded one, a couple of branded ones as well, in case these Pro Bar ones give up on me, but they haven't so far. They're pretty solid. So you want that, plenty of picks, plenty of capos, a really nice instrument that you're happy to play like 6 nights a week, 3 or 4 sets a night, plus, you know, and some potentially. And then obviously you want, you don't have to do this, especially the guitar vocalist position. This isn't a prerequisite at all, it's not a necessity, but in my opinion, if you want to give the best sound, I use a multi-effects pedal. You can use a board of pedals if you've got that, great. If you've got a board that you like to use, if you've got your sound dialed in, great. Again, in terms of portability, I use the TC Helicon Voice Live 3 Extreme, it's called. And again, nothing that I'm mentioning on this video is affiliated, okay? But I am in a hotel, I think. I've been using that pedal. It's one pedal with multiple effects. And okay, they're not like the best effects individually in the world. You know, you can get better single pedals, but in my opinion, it's one of, if not the best multi-effects pedal for traveling around with as one pedal. It's quite big and heavy, but it's still smaller and lighter than taking multiple pedals, because it's probably about 3 or 4 kilos in weight and probably the size of about 6 pedals. So you could easily go beyond that if you went the singular pedal route. Quite easily go heavier than that for sure. So you need that, obviously the cables to go with it. And the next thing is, I didn't do this straight away, but after my first contract, I realized that I needed to go wireless. Especially, again, my position, you get lots of opportunities to wander around whilst playing. Lots of opportunities to, say I'm in the atrium, it's really nice to just come away from the mic and wander around and just play instrumental guitar. It's lovely, actually. And you can do it in any of the venues. You can walk around the pub doing that, or if I'm playing up on the Lido deck, the pool deck, I could wander around if I wanted. You have to be a bit careful. You don't want to be walking up steps and things. It's probably a bit of a safety issue, so I wouldn't recommend that. But I think they're certainly okay normally for you to wander around a little bit, you know, entertain the guests. So to do that, I needed to go wireless. Now there's loads of products online that are very affordable, 50 quid, 100 quid. You can get these little wireless, what do they call it? You know, cable-less guitar connections. And they are good. And I started using some of those for a contract. And then I suddenly realized, okay, if I want to take this further, i.e. potentially playing in theatres and things, I can't be using those little wireless systems. So I went and bought myself a Shure GFX, I think it's called, Wi-Fi wireless guitar tuner. It's called something like that. And it's, you know, really good quality, much better quality than these little things you get on Amazon and stuff. You know, it's like true quality and a bit expensive, but you know, again, it's an investment in your work and everything, and I love it. I think it's so good. It's a bit heavy when you're packing. It all adds to the weight of your luggage, but it is what it is. It's got to come, and it's fantastic. The wireless tuner pedal, guitar pedal from Shure. I'm sure there are other brands out there, Sennheiser and stuff, but I like the Shure stuff. So I did that, got that, and then I also thought, well, again, sometimes it's nice to grab the microphone, put the guitar round on my back, especially if I'm playing with a band, which is not normal for this contract, but there are scenarios on other contracts and when I do things on land and stuff, and hopefully more of my future gigs, I'll be playing with a band. So I thought, okay, let's invest in a wireless microphone as well, because it was time for me to get a better quality one, because I was using my own, a Shure, I think it was an SM58, the classic. You don't have to bring a microphone for the guitar vocalist position usually, pretty much always. I've never heard of you having to bring a mic. The ship or the venue that you're playing will usually always have their own PA and microphone and stand included. But again, I wanted to hone my own sounding. Okay, so the phone that I'm using to film with overheated because it's so hot here in Ibiza, and so I stopped for a moment and it's come back to life, but I've put my rig away, if you like. So I'm just holding the camera to finish this video off, because what I was talking about, and I was taking a long time to say it, was I got onto the microphone, didn't I? I was saying that I bought my own microphone, and you don't have to do that for this position at all. And I don't know anyone else who has done that, to be honest. But for me, I'm looking beyond this role, and I'm looking to do bigger things. And yes, I've got microphones at home that I use live, but I specifically bought this wireless one. Again, a bit pricey, but it's a Shure. I like the Shure stuff. I know a lot of people like Sennheiser microphones, including the ships. They use lots of Sennheiser mics, but I like the classic Beta 58 Shure mic. I'm just so used to their sound that I just don't really see the point in changing it, and I find it a little bit more sort of natural sounding than the Sennheiser equivalent, which I find sounds really nice but a bit hyped up, I would say. And I don't necessarily want that hyped sound, but I can always dial it in myself if I want to, you know. So anyway, I like the weight of and the feel of the Beta 58 microphone as well, and the look of it. It just looks like a classic microphone, whereas the Sennheisers look a bit weird to me, to be honest, and they feel different in my hand and all that. So anyway, I bought this, again, it's a GLX, I think it's called, GLX range. Something to bear in mind if you're going down that route is the ships in particular, they often use radio mics on board, and of course there are lots of frequencies that are used by communication by radio, by the crew, by the officers and on the bridge and everything, and you can't be interfering with that. So if you're going to bring a wireless microphone, make sure it's Wi-Fi, which is why I bought the GLX Shure mic system wireless, because it has a dual band Wi-Fi setup, same as the pedal, dual band Wi-Fi. Don't get radio. Another reason is to cover, if you wanted to cover the whole world with a radio mic, you'd need like their flagship model, which is like this huge outboard thing, which is just not going to happen, obviously, because there are laws around which radio frequencies you can use freely in different countries, and they're different in different parts of the world. So yeah, it gets right around, it works around that whole issue of radio frequencies. Just get the Wi-Fi one, and I've never had it drop out. I've never had a problem with it, and the range is very good. Up on the top deck on a windy day where the wind does affect your Wi-Fi signal, I can walk around as much as I want on the pool deck, no problem, no cutout, no interference with the guitar or the mic. So they're the main bits of gear: the guitar, the pedal, the microphone, the wireless system in my case. Then you're going to want some sort of, I use an iPad some sort of pad. You can use your phone, technically. I don't see people doing that, but I think technically you'd be fine doing that. It's a bit small, but you can use that if you're really not wanting to fork out for a new iPad or something. But I would recommend something like an iPad so that you can get yourself an app, a music app. There's loads out there. I really am currently enjoying the My Songbook app, which is not a very commonly used one, and it's not very sophisticated at all, but it's perfect for just chords and lyrics, which is all I put in mind for this job. Just the chords as a prompt, a chord chart with the lyrics, and I can show examples of that if any of you want to see that. But yeah, stick that on your mic stand with a clamp, get yourself a clamp, and put your set list together in the app, and you're away. We can talk about set lists another time and how many songs you need and all that. They are the main pieces of equipment you're going to need. It's amazing how many cables I end up bringing. Oh my goodness. Just so many cables. They're all to charge these things up, aren't they? I usually bring a couple of multi-plug things, You plug one in and it's got 3 or 4 to plug into it. Bring a couple of those, ones with a couple of USB and a USB-C or something like that. So you've got a nice variety of things. And I can use that to charge various different things in my cabin, whilst I'm in my cabin, of course. If you leave the cabin, you have to unplug it. And I have one in my bag as well, so that I can set one up when I'm playing. Obviously to power all my equipment, but also to charge things up, like the wireless transmitter, for instance, for the guitar pedal. That needs charging every so often. So I can sometimes put that on, and that's okay to put on because you're there, you're present, nothing's going to happen. There's no risk of anything happening really, and we're allowed to do that. Obviously check the small print, check with the cruise line that you're operating with about the details, the finer details around those things. But yeah, I'm certainly allowed to do that, to charge things when I'm present. Cables, chargers, all of that stuff. I think that pretty much concludes your equipment, your gear. Not to forget also, it's just spares of things. Bring at least a couple of spare sets of strings. I've never actually changed strings on a contract, I don't think, because I always go in with a fresh pair and it always lasts the whole contract, and that's fine. Especially I use the long life Elixir ones, so they sound great for the whole contract, and then I normally replace them when I get back on land, because they'll be quite nicely used by that point. I like to keep them fairly fresh, but still bring a couple of pairs. You never know, do you? You just never know if you'll need them. If you might have a weird moment where your guitar just likes to go through strings. I've had that before, where there's a problem with the guitar and it actually just kills strings really quickly. So that if you have a couple of packs, that's enough to get you through the cruise for a week or two until you get back on land, or have ordered some on Amazon, have had them delivered, that kind of thing. So lots of picks, like I said, and anything else that you think you might need a spare of, just bring it. Just make sure you bring the spare things, because it's a hassle to carry them. All this stuff, it's a big hassle. My case usually comes in at 36 kilos. I bring one case with 36 kilo weight, which is massive, but it is what it is. And the thing is, the contract goes smoothly because I bring all this equipment and all these things to mitigate problems if they occur You know, even things that need batteries, I bring rechargeable batteries and the little charger that comes with it, and I just do that. And I bring spare batteries, and again, maybe that's a little bit overkill because the ships, in my experience, always have plenty of batteries, different, you know, all the different standard size batteries that you can just use for work, no problem, they'll just give them to you. But at the same time, I like being self-sufficient, and if it saves me having to walk, even as silly as it sounds, if it saves me having to do an extra journey to the office or to wherever the batteries are to collect them and ask someone and then come back, if it means I don't have to do that, then I'll pack my own charger, do it myself, because then I'm all inclusive and I don't need to be wandering around the ship unnecessarily, because really energy really is, like I said before, the main thing you need to really watch and take care of. And sometimes you can just get so burnt out that if you can make your contract smoother in any way, shape or form, do it. Bring that charger, bring those spare things, bring that additional stuff that's going to help the whole contract go smoothly. So I'm going to leave it there. I'm nearly back at the port now. See this? There we are. There's the ship right in the background there. Don't know how much of that you can see, but I'm going to, as always, get on, get clear and get going. So I'll see you next time. That's all for now. Bye.